For me to live is Christ, for me to die is gain. Every moment in between, there'll be joy and there'll be pain. I can't worry about the future or change a thing about my past. I've got this moment to believe, and I'm gonna make it last. I am filled to be emptied.
All right, so now we're getting to the good stuff, because everything that we have learned up to this point has been preparation for that inner wheel that God wants us to experience, that closeness to Him that He wants us to experience. So if you remember, we've been working through 2 Peter 1, and we've been talking about how God is kind of building a crescendo in us. He started with the baseline, faith. What it means for us to believe in Him and to believe Him. And He added to that base a baritone, and that is our arete, our virtue, our character, who we are. What we believe about Him determines who we are, and that then determines what we believe about us. And because of that, we are now ready to experience life with Him. And so then He adds to that the tenor that is our knowledge, our contact knowledge, what it means for us to have a testimony, a witness about what He's done in our lives. And we add to that a countertenor, and that is the self-control, the opportunity for us to experience the Holy Spirit controlling our lives and submitting our will to Him, letting His Spirit speak to our spirit to change our minds. And then we added that alto, contralto voice that says we need to remain under, not for our sake. We are holy because He has made us holy. Now we are, Peter says this way, be holy. And what he's not saying is do the right things. What he's saying is be separate, remain under God, even in trying circumstances. So blessed are those who are persecuted because they remain under God, and theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And that kingdom of heaven is God's influence, and He's spreading that out to everyone. So when we're at that place where we have faith and virtue and knowledge and self-control and endurance, then all of a sudden we can move into that inner wheel that Peter talks about next. And so this is what he says in 2 Peter 1. He says, His divine power is granted to us all things, not some things, not most things, not a few things, pertaining to life and godliness, through the knowledge of Him, contact knowledge, who called us to His own glory and excellence, which He has granted to us. He gave it to us, His precious and His very great promises, so that through them we may become partakers of the divine nature, having escaped and fled from the corruption that is in the world and that desire for anything other than God. And then he builds that up for this very reason. Make every effort. Drop everything to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, with endurance. And that endurance is the first step where we have prepared ourselves. We have put on the full armor of God. And now we're starting to look out into the world and say, what is it in the world that we need to focus on? And God says, hold on. You're not ready yet to focus on the world. You are prepared now, and you are set so that the world will be watching. But now the first thing that you need to add to that, what is the soprano voice, is godliness. We add to our endurance godliness. Doesn't it sound like we've been doing that all this time? But godliness, in order to understand what godliness is, we need to understand what it is not. So I made a list because I knew I wasn't going to be able to remember this whole list. But as I said in the last episode, when we see a trait that's in a series, we can't just suppose that it means the same thing as something else in the series. It was added there in Holy Scripture for a reason. And so it may be that it validates and confirms it, but it always adds a piece to it. And so when I look at godliness, I may not know what it is, but I can tell you what it is more than. It is more than everything in this list. Life, virtue, knowledge, faith, self-control, perseverance, brotherly affection, or love. Godliness is different. It's other than righteousness or gentleness based on 1 Timothy 6:11. Based on 2 Peter 3:11, it's not holy living. Isn't that what you would immediately expect? Based on Acts 3:12, it's not power. Based on 1 Timothy 2:2, it's not reverence. Based on 1 Timothy 6:6, it's not contentment. And based on Titus 1:1, it's not truth. So what is godliness? Godliness is eusebeo, and that eusebeo means to worship towards something. What it means is a practical devotion of everything you have to Him. That encompasses all of those things and gives all of it to God. Your love goes to God. Your patience goes to God. Your endurance goes to God. Your virtue goes to God. Your faith goes to God. Everything you have goes to Him. He says, before you are ready to affect the world around you, the first thing that you have to do is recognize that it's all mine. Everything that you do, everything that you are, everything that you have to give, everything you think and feel, everything that you know is mine. So give it to me. Let me be the desire of your heart. Have a practical devotion in every aspect of your life to me. Now think about it. That would be impossible, wouldn't it? To have everything I am to be His unless I was given the divine power already to do it. Unless I already have been working on my faith and believing in Him. And I've become a different person. And I know things about who God is now because of what He's done for me. And I can exhibit self-control because I'm willing to let the Spirit lead me in this. And I remain under that no matter what. And all of a sudden I can begin to give to God what is God's, which is everything. Imagine you're a jar. If you're a jar, back in biblical times, then your sole job is to be a vessel for whatever is put inside of you. And so imagine you are being used to carry water. And so you are brought to the well, and there is nothing you can do to fill yourself from the well. Someone has to either lower you into the water so that it can fill you up, or draw the water somehow and put the water inside of you. And once you have the water inside of you, you have to just hold it. There's nothing else you can do until the person who owns the jar takes the jar and spills it out over whatever it is using that person is using the jar for. Maybe it's a ladle and there's drink. Maybe it's to water plants. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it's to wash something. You don't know what the water is going to be used for, and it's not your job. You're just a jar. You are filled by someone and you're emptied by someone, and you have no control over it. Now, if you let a person do that, and that person is a normal human being, then sometimes that person drops you. Sometimes that person bumps you against things. Sometimes that person purposefully throws you at things out of anger. Sometimes that person will do things to break and chip and crack you. And if you let someone else fill you and someone else empty you, then you come out broken. But if your owner is God, and He can be completely trusted, He doesn't put into you water. He puts into you living water. And when that living water then is inside of you, it's not your job to pour it out. It's His job to pour it out. And so out of devotion to Him, I give Him the right to pour my water out wherever He wants. He can use it for washing the dirtiest garments. He can use it for giving drinks to peasants and kings. He can use it to water flowers or freshen a manure pile. It's up to Him, and I have to let Him do it. So if you look at John 4 and you think of the woman at the well, all of a sudden some of the conversation that they have makes a little bit more sense. A woman came from Samaria to draw water. This is in chapter 4, verse 7 of John. A woman from Samaria came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." For His disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. And the Samaritan woman said to Him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria?" And Jesus answered her, if you only knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, "Give me a drink," you would have asked Him, and He would have given you living water. And the woman said to Him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water?" Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock. Now listen, one of the ways that you can go through John and really make the most of John is recognize that most of the time John is recording conversations. And every time he records a conversation, what he's doing is he's showing that the person he's talking to has an earthly perspective, but he is giving them a heavenly perspective. And here she's looking at him and saying, you can't have living water. You can't have any water at all. Think of living water. What is living water? What's the difference between living water and dead water? Well, dead water is stand still and it doesn't flow. So all dead water does is sit. And if all water does is sit, it becomes, it corrupts. It becomes nasty. It has all kinds of bacteria. It becomes stagnant. But living water runs. And she says, look, I would love to have some of that living water because it's fresher. There's more to it. It's greater. But you don't have anything to draw it with because she's seeing it from an earthly perspective. And Jesus said, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. If I give him the living water, it's living water. It's going to flow. It can't get stagnant. It can't stay there. It has to go somewhere in order for it to stay the fresh living water that it is. The woman said to him, sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water. And Jesus is still recognizing, she is still thinking earthly. Listen, when we think of godliness, we often come at it with an earthly perspective. And we want to see, okay, I'll be good, God, if you bless me. I'll be good, God, if I can have peace. I'll be good, God, if you take care of my marriage or my kids or my finances or whatever. And we see it from an earthly perspective. We say, give us that living water so that we never are thirsty again. And Jesus had to break that in her. He had to help her to see that she was still not thinking high enough. So he says, go call your husband and come here. Imagine the defensiveness that she immediately feels. Imagine, okay, how do I answer this? Because this is what always happens. Every time I talk to a human being, this is what happens. Eventually, they call me to question my station and my decisions and everything. And that's why I'm here in the middle of the day drawing water instead of in the cool of the day, so I don't have to listen to any of those nagging women tell me about how terrible my life is. And we're back here again. He's just calling out my sin. So she just says, I don't have a husband. Because how could he know anything? How could he understand what was going on in her life? So it may be that she was a widow, or it may be that she was never married. She was passed over. No one was giving her any chance of getting married. Maybe if she just says, I have no husband, she's not lying, but she's also not admitting. And Jesus said, oh yeah, you're right. As a matter of fact, you're just living with that guy, but you've had 5 husbands before. And he tells her whole life story. And her response is to recognize that we're talking about heavenly things. All of a sudden, because he let her know that he knew her sin and he was still willing to talk to her, that she could elevate her perception. She says, sir, I perceive you're a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem is the place where people ought to worship. Because see, okay, I know we're talking heavenly things, but I'm a Samaritan. And so I'm thinking this is my denomination and this is where I've got to be. So anything that you say from here, you just need to be in my denomination or I'm not going to listen to you. Sound familiar? And he says, woman, I usually get in trouble when I start a sentence that way. Jesus can do it though. Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. In other words, your denominations don't matter to God. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship him. God is spirit. And those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. What he's saying is, this living water, this heavenly perspective is greater than the Samaritans. It's greater than the Jews. It's greater than everything that you've ever thought of. It's greater than your past. It's greater than your present. It's even greater than your future. What it is We think we understand eternity, but we have no idea what the kingdom of heaven is really like. We think we know. And the reason we think we know is because if we know it, we can control it. But if we admit that it's greater than anything we could imagine, then all of a sudden we realize that the kingdom of heaven, as Jesus said, is at hand. And if the kingdom of heaven is at hand, then it doesn't matter where I worship him. What it matters is that my spirit is drawn to his spirit and my truth comes from him. And everything I have now is his because he is the kingdom and I am in him. And now I can take a whole new path where it doesn't mean that I have to suddenly leave my denomination or leave my understanding. What it means is I have to begin to live in the understanding that I have and wait for him to show me more, because there's more. There's always more. There's always more. And so godliness then is not how I live. Godliness is how I submit, how I recognize and give practically everything that I am to him. And the only way I can do that is by being inside that inner circle. I got to be close to the Trinity. I've got to believe in the Father. I've got to believe in the Son. I've got to believe in the Spirit. And I've got to recognize that that 3-in-1 is inside of me. And it is speaking to my pneuma so that my suke will affect my sarx. So that my spirit will come into my soul and affect my mind so that it will affect how I use my body. And once I do that, I am ready now, because I'm not trying to accomplish anything, and I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone, and I'm not trying to get approval from anyone. I'm just living for him. So, how can we manage that? I've always been amazed by John's recording of Jesus' last teaching before his crucifixion, chapters 14 to 17. And in 15, he says something that I think that we kind of pass over. We kind of don't give it the attention it deserves because we kind of don't understand it. Chapter 15, verse 1. In John says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Okay. So when we think of the word abide, we don't use it very often anymore. So abide, some of us go, well, an abode is a place where you dwell. So maybe it means I reside. If you reside in me and I reside in you, but that really isn't what he's talking about here. You can also say in the negative, I can't abide by that. In other words, I can't let that go. I can't let that be the case. There's something in me that doesn't feel right about that, and I can't abide by that. And so what it's saying is, I can't go along with it. I can't agree with it. I can't say that it's okay. And then when we see abide in me, we either think of residence or we think of approval. And he's not talking about either one. This word means kind of to stay, but it means to stay with something lurking under the surface. It's like everything you do, Jesus is lurking under the surface of you. Abide in me. Let me fill you so much. Let you be the jar. I'll be the owner. Let me fill you up so much with love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and self-control that you can't help yourself. You've got to spill it out wherever I tell you, because I'm the owner. It's not your job to decide where to empty it. It's my job to show you where you will be emptied. All of a sudden, my abiding doesn't mean that I live in him or he lives in me. It doesn't mean that I approve or disapprove. It means he's got me by my skin. And he's lurking underneath, just waiting to show himself to everyone else. Jeremiah. Wasn't sure I was going to go here. I first heard this from John Piper, talking about what sin really is. And he went back to the book of Genesis, and he talked about the fact that the issue with eating the fruit wasn't eating the fruit. And the issue that Eve had wasn't listening to the serpent. The issue that Eve had was that she looked at the fruit and she saw that it was desirable, and she decided to desire that instead of God. And he got that from Jeremiah, where in chapter 2, verse 12, he says, "Be appalled, O heavens, at this. Be shocked, be utterly desolate, declares the Lord, for my people have committed two evils. First one, they have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters. And second, they have hewed out cisterns for themselves, broken cisterns that can hold no water." If you think of those cisterns as basically just jars underground, what he's saying is, I could have given you living water, but you decided not to take that. Instead, you took the stagnant water. I decided to give you to heal your jar and fix your jar, help your jar to be completely ready to be full of what I have, so that I may use you to empty. But instead, you decided you would make your own jar. And that jar gets broken by people, and it gets broken by you. That jar has cracks because of how you've abused people and how they've abused you. That jar has leaks where even the stagnant water can't stay for very long. Here are the two evils that you have done. You have decided you are your own jar, and you have forsaken the living water for stagnant water, and you have allowed the world and yourself to chip away at you so that you are less than you were ever meant to be. But God, through Jesus Christ, doesn't fix all your cracks. He makes you new. Now later, Jeremiah is going to talk about being the potter, God being the potter and us being the clay, and how he's building and making us. And Paul's going to talk about he made some of us for noble purposes and some for ignoble purposes. But the jar's job is always to be filled, to be emptied. And that's what godliness is. God, in everything that I'm doing, I'm going to be your jar. It's your job to fill me, and it's your job to empty me. And it's my job to be ready.
For me to live is Christ, for me to die is gain. Every moment in between, there'll be joy and there'll be pain. I can't worry about the future or change a thing about my past. I've got this moment to believe, and I'm gonna make it last. I am filled to be